Astros bullpen that things were going to kind of work itself out. They've dropped their ERA to a 5.4. So progress being made, but then again, when you go 8 2/3 without giving up a run, that's going to kind of help your numbers a teeny tiny bit.
Lot. They were, before that, dead last in baseball with a whopping ERA of, you ready for this? 6.89. Almost
gross.
6.9.
That's nice, but not nice.
No, that's
so yeah,
not nice.
But a really good performance from the bullpen yesterday. Now Parker Mashinsky coming up to add to that bullpen. So that's one of the first moves the Astros will make. That means we're expected from Valdez. Hopefully it's from Valdez. He's going to the injured list and not another surprise.
What if it was Jose Abreu that got put on the injured list?
Okay. Sorry, host. That's mean. I feel like I'm being really mean to some Astros players.
You're not being mean. He might need time to reset himself.
Yeah.
Sorry to rain on your parade, Joe, but why would they call up a pitcher to replace?
Well, they sent down Blair.
Okay, so then they can call up a first baseman?
So then they could also call up a first baseman.
Okay.
In theory.
Okay.
But most likely what's happening here is that
Mario Lopez. His real name's Mike. Yeah.
People really want him. And they just look at home runs and RBIs. He strikes out a lot. I'm all for it.
Yeah, you know who else strikes out a lot?
Jose Abreu.
Thank you.
He just doesn't hit dingers.
Twice last night.
Like Joey Loperfido does. So I would say that like what's most likely happening is you have Parker coming back, Fromber goes to the IL, and then you're probably going to see, my guess is Spencer Arrighetti is going to get the call up. He pitched last on Thursday. For the Space Cowboys, it would seem time to just bring him up to the bigs with how he's pitched so far, what Dana Brown has said about him, that he's going to be here. But just the bullpen in general, feel any better just today? Not just because of yesterday's game than I would say you did a week ago, because it was pretty bad for a while.
I'm going to give you a sunshiny take here, Joe.
And rainbows?
Rainbows if you want.
Okay.
Some people believe every single word that comes out of my mouth is essentially on top of a rainbow because of leanings that they may believe I have. I think the bullpen should improve the more reps that they get this year. The question is how much it can improve, but Seth Martinez did a hell of a job last night, and maybe he's the random bullpen arm that becomes surprisingly reliable this year, a la Phil Maton, a la Hector Neris. He had 11 outs on 32 pitches over 3 2/3. Just one hit. It was just Corey Seager, leadoff single in the second. No runner reached second base against him. And he generally struggles against left-handed hitters. He held them to 1 for 6. And apparently his sinker was really good against those guys. So is Seth Martinez going to be the random Astro reliever that we all look at and say, he's pretty good at the end of the year? Bullpens year to year are very difficult to predict, individual pitchers and as a whole. It's why I don't like long-term contracts given out to relievers, whether it's Ryan Presley, who deserved it, Rafael Montero, who didn't deserve it, Josh Hader, who in theory deserved it, because I feel like 1 year you can have it, and the next year you might not. Whether that's Eric Gagne or Billy Wagner or some of the many closers that we've seen. And sometimes you just lose it. Mariano Rivera has really been the exception to it. So my hope is that Seth Martinez is going to be the random guy that we come to rely on this year. My hope is also that with the more reps that they get, the better they will. I think that for the most part, you get better with more action, with more demand on you. That's really what you got to rely on right now. So if you want a sunshine spin zone, can't get any worse than it's been to this point, number one. And number two, more reps, they should be better. And maybe by the end of the year, you're feeling a lot better about the middle relief.
You know what? I like this because part of it is, Seth Martinez was an interesting pitcher for the Astros last year. He kind of was your not even your fireman. He was your emergency guy. Like there was a couple times where he would come in like the 10th inning and he would just go and go and go because they had used most of their guys, and he would just pitch extra deep into playoff or into regular season games, just in extra innings. Where they would eventually lose, but he would give you 2, 3, 4 innings, and it was competitive at least. I like Seth Martinez. I hope you're right. Like that's the biggest thing that they're missing right now is the gap guy to, in theory, to get you to Abreu, Presley, and Hader when Christian Javier only gives you 5 innings. I hope you're right. I hope Seth Martinez can be that guy.
I do too, because I don't got much more than that. Well, it could get better with more experience.
I mean, part of it's also like, well, once the starters get back, then that, you just have more pitching. Some of those guys can be middle relievers.
Hooray!
Yeah. And the Presley, Abreu, Hader, you just kind of have to be like, these guys better figure it out. Because they have actual track records of being good. So, and the whole theory of this team depends on them being good. So that's kind of like if these guys aren't good, then don't really have much of a chance anyway. It doesn't matter how good Seth Martinez is.
Yeah, you're definitely, specifically Presley. I'm almost just not concerned about Josh Hader. It's not going to be perfect all the time. I would expect him to more often to be the guy who he was in the first 2 starts than who he was, recently. And even then, he still got the save. It was just a very stressful save, to say the least. But it's more Presley who it's a big red flag with how he's performed, to say the least. And the fact that we know these guys are creatures of habit, and then just taking him out of the 9th and putting him into the 8th or in the 7th in a different role, and just it hasn't looked pretty. And
there's a lot of non-baseball reasons to be concerned about it, just like the baseball reasons. You're moving a guy who was the guy out of the role that he earned through his play over, a half decade and the majority of this Astros dynastic run. And on top of that, now you're asking him to do totally different things. And for whatever reason, it does feel like closers in particular have a tough time pitching in different spots.
From the 936, is it weird to have a favorite long relief bullpen pitcher? Because mine is Seth Martinez.
Hell yeah, dude.
No, you love who you love. Doesn't matter which, as long as they're the Astros.
Wow, that's very progressive of you. Doesn't matter if you love Seth Martinez or Brandon Belak.
Well, as long as you don't love Rafael Montero or Jose Abreu, because not good.
You said you were going to stop being mean.
Yeah, come on. And you just took a shot at Jeff Bagwell right there.
Yeah.
I wonder why is that both
Astro
those
Hall of
guys
Famer.
together.
Apologize to GM Jeff Bagwell.
The greatest Astro of all time if you ignore postseason success.
Yeah.
If you ignored the last 7 years.
Just, pretend like Jose Altuve never existed.